You're listening to Emerson Whitner's NXT Report on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to your NXT audio update for Wednesday, June 10th, 2015. My name is Emerson Whitner. Thank you again for listening to a recap of the oddest episode of NXT we've had in quite some time. To kick things off, the show started with the oddest team in the history of WWE, Mojo Rawley and Zack Ryder, defeating Mike Rawless and Elias Sampson. Useless trivia fact of the night, Zack Ryder was the pro of Titus O'Neil in Season 2 of NXT and actually came back to beat Titus in a one-on-one match at during NXT Redemption. I want to point out I remembered both of those things off the top of my head, but I could not tell you half of what happened on Raw 2 days ago. During the match, Corey Graves noted that former two-time heavyweight boxing champion Riddick Bowe follows him on Twitter, so I'd like to point out to Corey that Riddick also follows me. And by the way, you should follow me too at the Really Real EW. But back to the match. The most absurd team in WWE history did get the win over the faceless, almost nameless jobbers. Rawless and Sampson got just enough heat on Ryder, so it wasn't a total squash. Mojo used the pounce, Monty Brown's old pounce, and then they won with a double-team spinebuster Rough Rider combo. After the match, the winners went into the audience and celebrated with a bunch of people wearing Mojo Rawley shirts. A really awesome Finn Balor promo video aired, hyping up the NXT title match July 4th, live from Tokyo on the WWE Network. I was so horribly wrong about a lot of that, because allegedly they are doing the show live at 6:30 in the morning. Well, I guess that's not allegedly, that's a fact. They're doing it live at 6:30 in the morning, but they're doing the entire show and not just the NXT title match, which I assumed. Another Dana Brooke video aired. I still hate watching her wrestle. I swear she's a really nice person in real life, but she just is a horrible, horrible wrestler. And she returns next week. Oh boy, fun. Speaking of returns, Blue Pants returned this week, and she went down in defeat to Emma. So Ed Laredo jumped up and down for 2 or 3 minutes while old Blue Pants got to wrestle this week. The fans did chant happy birthday at Blue Pants, as when they taped the show, it was Blue Pants' birthday. The fans were so into Emma on offense that they proceeded to chant that New Day sucks. Yeah. Blue Pants made her come back and hit a bunch of kicks to the head, but Emma tripped her up and won with the Emma lock. Enzo Amore, Colin Cassidy, and Carmelo were backstage talking all over each other when Devin told them that next week it's a 6-person tag against Blake Murphy and Alexa Bliss. And they each vowed to win the match next week. I know you're shocked. Then we got the beginning of the Bull Dempsey burial. I don't know whose Cheerios this man pissed in, but somebody did not like him. First up, he took on Tyler Breeze in another heel versus heel match. Breeze does do a lot of these heel versus heel matches for some reason. But I'll tell you what, normally I'm a big fan of men wearing capes, but at this point, Tyler Breeze's cape is so epic that everyone else's cape would pale in comparison. Bad News Bear needs to stop wearing his cape because he looks like crap in comparison to Prince Pretty. A couple of fans tried to get a Baby Rhino chant going, but no one picked up on it. They did have slightly more luck with the Bull is gorgeous, no he's not chant, and no, I didn't misspeak there. They were chanting Bull is gorgeous instead of Breeze. Bull beat on Breeze for about, a minute and a half, and was going to finish off with a diving headbutt, but Breeze rolled outside, and this is where the burial began. So Bull rolls out to chase after Tyler, and it's, the spot you've seen in 5,000 matches in your life where they chase each other around the ring. Well, Bull Dempsey, and I'm going to bet, this didn't really get blown up, and this is just supposed to be the spot in the match, especially when we found out later. Bull started running around the ring at Tyler, didn't even make it a full lap around the ring, and had to stop because he just couldn't run anymore. You see, he was fat, and he had no stamina. And so Tyler, from across the ring, was laughing at him, so they did another half-assed chase, and this time Bull made it a full lap around the ring, and Tyler had such a lead on him that he literally lapped Bull on the way around. He threw Dempsey back in the ring and immediately won with the beauty shot. My closing comments to that were, what the hell is that? But it's just the beginning for young Bull Dempsey. Becky Lynch submitted Jessie K. I believe Jessie is one of Lance Storm's students from Australia. However, I have no idea who she is. I think she wrestled a match a few weeks ago, and I'm sure someone on Twitter will point this out to me. And again, at the Really Real EW, I get at least one person every week pointing something out to me. Jessie did look good during this match. She got a lot of offense in. Becky made her come back, and it was the weirdest. It was Becky's night of weirdness. First, she did the arm lock the arm bar, pulling Becky's. Let me start that sentence again. She did an arm bar, pulling Jessie's arm behind her back, and then doing a suplex, dropping Jessie on her back with her arm still back there. Now that I got that sentence out of the way, Becky then hit a bunch of leg drops and then used a wacky reverse slam where instead of picking her up in front of her body and dropping her on her back, she somehow picked her up from behind and dropped Jessie on her stomach. And then she won by submission with the armbar. William Regal's backstage with an important announcement, which I guess turned out to be that Kevin Owens is allowed to do commentary during the main event. And this is where Bull Dempsey continued to get buried. He walked in eating Doritos. By the way, product placement. Don't know if Doritos is even a sponsor of WWE, but, they got some free advertising tonight. But Bull walked in and was eating Doritos, and he told Mr. Regal that what happened was because he was tired from being up all night training and promised it will never happen again. Of course, it implied that his training meant that he was up all night eating junk food and getting fat. Mr. Regal took his chips and stormed off, so Bull started eating a candy bar. And whose Cheerios exactly did Bull piss in? Now, keep in mind, I've never been a big Bull Dempsey fan. He was the master of the headlock for several weeks until he learned a few more offensive maneuvers. But, really, they could have just, not have him be on TV. There are 70 people under developmental contract, and maybe 10, 12 people get to be on TV every week. They literally didn't even need to use him, but instead they brought him on the TV just to point out that he's fat and out of shape, which is funny since the big feud on NXT is between two people who are also not aesthetically pleasing, and are, had their own weight issues over the years. Greg Hamilton's backstage with Jason Jordan. Jordan said that his last partner, Marcus Louis, didn't work out, but promises the next one will. Chad Gable, of course, walked up and said that when Jordan finally comes to his senses, Chad will be ready, willing, and Gable. Oh, boy. After Jordan left, Chad then wrote his name on Jordan's locker. Baron Corbin pinned Angelo Dawkins. The fans turned on Baron when they realized he was no longer doing his win every match in 30 seconds gimmick. Literally, there was nothing wrong with this match. Baron has had several matches worse than this, Honestly, that match he had with Adrian Neville a few months ago was worse than this. But the fans chose that tonight was the time to turn on the poor guy, and he won with the end of days. Dawkins got in. Dawkins' entire offense consisted of 2 punches to the face, and Baron won with the end of days. Samoa Joe in the main event in his first WWE televised match since losing to S.A. Rios on an episode of Jacked in 2001. Samoa Joe pinned Scott Dawson. They came back from commercial, and Kevin Owens is sitting at the broadcast booth with his arm around Byron Saxton, while Saxton, Corey Graves, and Rich are all just sitting there looking as uncomfortable as humanly possible. But thankfully, none of these people are Alex Riley. None of them are stupid enough to get Owens to be pissed off at him. Scott Dawson, by the way, for you longtime NXT geeks like me, he was actually a teammate with Alexander Rusev when they were both managed by Sylvester Lefort back in 2013, actually. And Rusev turned on Lefort and joined up with Lana, and the rest is history. Anyway, back to what's actually happening. Owens mockingly marked out when the announcers got so excited for each one of Joe's moves. Dawson did get slightly more offense than you would expect. However, this was basically Samoa Joe's greatest hits, doing all of his moves, including the corner Uranagi, and eventually won with the Muscle Buster. After the match, Owens went to leave when Joe took the mic and reminded Kevin of his threat from a few weeks ago that the next time Joe enters the ring that Kevin would drop him. So Joe challenged him to get into the ring and give everyone the fight they wanted to see. Owens said that this proves what a good man he is because he's not going to get in the ring and drop Joe after his very first match. Since Joe is an NXT rookie, Owens gave him some veteran advice, pointing out that you can't just walk in and get an NXT title shot after one match. Of course, the humor and all that's exactly what Owens did when he came in. This was the cue for Mr. Regal, who walked out and said that, yes, Samoa Joe can't get a title shot after winning one match. However, next week, it will be Kevin Owens versus Samoa Joe, one-on-one, in an NXT ring on the WWE Network. And the announcers played it off huge that this next week is going to be a big week for Owens, wrestling John Cena, Money in the Bank, and then Samoa Joe on NXT. But what's going to happen next week? I'm not sure. But, you know, what I am sure of is I'm going to be here next week. And I'm sure most of you will be here listening. Thank you again for listening. Have a great day. Have a fun week. Do something fun. Do something stupid. And until next Wednesday, take care.
You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.